In 1831, two young Frenchmen, Alexis de Tocqueville and Gustave de Beaumont, arrived in America. Their official mission? To study the U.S. prison system. But their real goal was much bigger. They wanted to understand American democracy and see if it could be the answer to France's political struggles. The United States at that time was a young country, only about 50 years old, and still evolving. Alexis and Gustave spent 9 months traveling across America, observing not just prisons but society as a whole, its political, religious, and economic systems. They even made their way into parts of Canada. When they returned to France, both men wrote about their findings, but Alexis's book, Democracy in America, published in 1835, became one of the most important works on democracy and society ever written. Alexis was struck by the equality of conditions in America. In Europe, society was rigidly divided into classes. In America, however, people seemed more equal. They shared a common language, English, and a distrust of monarchy. Alexis admired how Americans had developed self-government and how deeply rooted it was in their daily lives. One of the first things that fascinated Alexis was the land itself, especially the Mississippi Valley, which he called the most magnificent habitation ever prepared by God for man. The vast open spaces meant that feudalism, the system of landlords and tenants that still existed in Europe, couldn't take root in America. With so much land available, the conditions for wealth were spread more evenly, which led to a large middle class. But the United States wasn't without its divisions. Alexis noted a clear contrast between the North and the South. He saw the North as more educated, driven by religion and morality, while the South was focused on wealth, particularly through slavery. This difference in values, Alexis believed, would lead to major problems in the future. He was especially impressed by the Puritans in the North. They had come to America to practice their religion freely, and in doing so, had set up strict, democratic societies. Alexis believed the Puritans' morality and sense of order helped shape America's unique form of democracy. He also noted how the separation of church and state in America actually strengthened both institutions. One of the features of American democracy that Alexis found fascinating was the way power was distributed. America had two governments, state and federal. Each state was divided into smaller units, like townships, and the people in these townships had a lot of power. They elected local officials, enforced laws, and made decisions as a community. Alexis saw this local involvement as one of the keys to American democracy. It made people active citizens, not just subjects under a ruler. Unlike in Europe, where aristocrats and elites had special privileges, American officials, even the most powerful ones, were subject to the same laws as ordinary citizens. No one was above the law, which helped prevent the rise of tyranny. However, Alexis did point out some challenges, especially in supervising officials who might abuse their power. The system relied on complaints from citizens, which didn't always happen, especially when people benefited from corruption. Alexis admired the structure of the U.S. government, with its Senate and House of Representatives. The Senate, according to him, was filled with wise and educated men, while the House of Representatives had a more common character. He saw the value in this system, where one branch represented the interests of the people, and the other provided balance and authority. One aspect of American law that stood out to him was the system of inheritance. In Europe, the oldest son often inherited everything, but in America, land and wealth were divided equally among all children. This, Alexis believed, helped spread wealth more evenly and kept any one family from becoming too powerful. Alexis also observed the importance of freedom of the press in America. The press played a key role in keeping people informed, which was essential in a democracy where the people had the ultimate power. While the press in France often swayed public opinion dramatically, in America it was less influential because Americans were more focused on facts than opinions. Religion, too, played a vital role in American democracy. Alexis noted that Americans were deeply religious, and their beliefs shaped their moral values. This was surprising to him because in Europe, many people thought freedom and religion couldn't coexist. But in America, they did. Alexis believed religion kept society stable, while politics provided room for debate and change. As Alexis studied the different groups in America, he couldn't help but notice the decline of the Native American population and the harsh treatment they received. He was also troubled by slavery. He recognized the need for abolition, but worried about how former slaves would be treated in a society with such deep racial prejudice. He predicted that if slavery wasn't ended peacefully, it would lead to violent conflict. Alexis also foresaw that America's strength lay in its unity. However, he warned that the growing industrial power of the North would create tensions with the agricultural South. While the moral differences over slavery were significant, he saw economic inequality as an even bigger threat to the nation's stability. As for America's future, Alexis predicted the country would expand westward and one day become a global superpower, alongside Russia. He believed America's democratic system, with its checks and balances, would help it thrive. But maintaining liberty would be the real challenge. In the end, Alexis de Tocqueville saw American democracy as both an example and a warning. It offered equality and freedom in ways the world had never seen before, but it also required constant vigilance to maintain. If Americans could keep their love of liberty alive, their democracy could last for generations.